I trusted her when she said her bachelorette party would be nothing wild. Just a dinner, maybe some dancing, nothing that would leave me worried the night before our wedding. But the video that landed in my inbox told a different story, one that made strippers look like the polite entertainment option. What I saw wasn't just betrayal. It was a performance, staged for laughs, that ripped every ounce of trust out of me. And the cruelest part? Everyone else there thought it was hilarious. We'd been together for 3 years, long enough to learn each other's habits in the quiet, boring ways that make love feel like home. She knew how I took my coffee before work. I knew the exact angle she liked the TV remote tilted when we binged shows on Sunday nights. We weren't flashy. We weren't dramatic. At least, I thought we weren't. Planning the wedding had been stressful, sure, but in the kind of way that made people laugh later. Guest lists, catering debates, the usual. She wanted a band. I wanted a DJ. She won. She wanted a rustic barn vibe. I wanted something simpler. She won again. I didn't mind losing those battles, because I thought the war, the actual marriage, was one we were fighting on the same side. Everyone told me, bachelor and bachelorette parties are just rituals. Don't take them too seriously. And honestly, I didn't. I told my friends I didn't want strippers, didn't want anything that could leave a bad taste right before we said, I do. We settled for beers, pool, and a lazy weekend that barely qualified as a party. She smiled when I told her. Good, she said, because mine's not going to be wild either. Just dinner, a few drinks. Nothing to worry about. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? The woman I thought I knew had always been calm, grounded. She wasn't the shots at midnight type. She didn't even like going out much. If anything, I worried she'd be the one getting dragged into something by her louder friends, the ones who still lived like they were in college. But she reassured me. It'll be boring. You'll probably have more fun at yours. So I didn't think twice when she left that Friday night in a dress I'd seen before, smiling like it was just another girl's night. I ordered takeout, put on a game, and imagined her clinking glasses with her bridesmaids over appetizers. That was the picture I had in my head. Safe, tame, forgettable. What I didn't realize was that the word harmless doesn't mean the same thing to everyone. To me, it meant respect. To her, apparently, it meant plausible deniability. And when the first message pinged on my phone, a short, almost apologetic text from someone I barely knew, I brushed it off. Until I saw the attachment. Until I hit play. That should have been my first red flag. But I didn't know then that a single video, just a few minutes long, was about to take everything I thought I knew about her and burn it to the ground. Little did I know, everything was about to change. It started with a buzz on my phone, the kind you almost ignore because you're too focused on the TV. I figured it was one of the guys from my bachelor weekend, maybe sending a meme or a picture from the pool table. Instead, it was from a number I didn't recognize, just a name I'd seen once or twice in group chats, one of her cousin's friends. The message was short, almost guilty. You should probably see this. I'm sorry. For a second, I debated not opening it. Who sends a text like that on the night before a wedding? My thumb hovered over the screen, and I felt this weird chill in my stomach, like my body knew what my brain refused to process. Then I tapped. The video opened on chaos. Music blasting, bodies pressed together in a rented room that looked nothing like the quiet dinner I'd been promised. I expected maybe some shots, some dancing, nothing I hadn't seen before. But then the camera panned, and my chest tightened. There she was, my fiancée, the woman I'd planned to stand beside tomorrow, in white lace and vows. Except she wasn't in lace now. She was on a chair, spotlighted by her friends' laughter, while two men, definitely not strippers, not professionals, circled her like wolves pretending it was all a joke. At first, I tried to rationalize. Maybe it was just dancing. Maybe they were being stupid. But then she laughed, a laugh I knew too well. Except this time it wasn't the soft laugh she gave me when I burned the pancakes. It was loud, reckless, almost mean. She tilted her head back, clutching one of the guys by the necktie as the room erupted in cheers. My pulse roared in my ears. I could barely hear the music anymore, just the blood rushing through me. I told myself, don't jump to conclusions. It's a game, it's just acting. But the way she looked at him wasn't acting. It was indulgence, a look that said she was enjoying every second of being the center of this spectacle. And then it got worse. Someone shouted her name, and she shouted back something I'll never forget. This is my last night of freedom. The crowd laughed, and one of her bridesmaids slapped the table like it was the funniest line she'd ever heard. I felt sick. My hands were trembling so badly, I almost dropped the phone. I wanted to stop watching, but I couldn't. Every second dug deeper, peeling back another layer of the person I thought I knew. By the time the video ended, my living room felt smaller, darker. The food I'd ordered sat untouched, the game muted in the background. All I could hear was her laugh echoing in my head. I set the phone down like it was something toxic, my palms sweaty. I thought I was done, that this was the worst of it. But I was wrong. Because a few minutes later, another message came through. And this time, it wasn't just a video. But that was just the beginning of my nightmare. The second notification hit harder than the first, like someone knocking twice just to make sure I was awake. Same number. No text this time. Just another file waiting to be opened. My thumb hovered again, but there was no hesitation now. I tapped. This one wasn't shaky party footage. It was clearer, closer, almost like the person filming wanted me to notice every detail. The angle caught her face head-on. No mistaking the way her eyes sparkled, no mistaking the way she leaned into the chaos like it was oxygen. But what froze me was the voice of the one filming. A woman's voice, whispering, "She's going to regret this tomorrow." It wasn't said with concern. It was said like a warning, like someone already knew how ugly the fallout would be. I paused the video and stared at the still frame. Her lips against a stranger's ear, her hand on his chest, her bridesmaids screaming like they'd just scored tickets to a sold-out show. My fiancé, my supposed partner in loyalty and trust, was the headline act, and I was the fool who hadn't bought a ticket. For a few minutes, I tried to talk myself down. Maybe it's not what it looks like. Maybe she was drunk. Maybe it was staged. But every excuse sounded like I was auditioning for the role of gullible groom of the year. My body betrayed me. My stomach churned like I'd swallowed something rotten. My throat felt dry even as I grabbed a glass of water, spilling half of it on the counter because my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I kept replaying her words from earlier in the week. "It'll be boring. You'll probably have more fun at yours." The audacity of that lie hit me like a second punch. She hadn't just downplayed the party. She deliberately painted a picture that couldn't be further from the truth. And I had believed it because I wanted to. Because the idea of mistrust felt worse than ignorance. Another ping. Not a video this time. A string of screenshots. Messages from her group chat. The kind of chat they thought no one outside would ever see. Lines of text glowed on the screen. "He's so trusting, lol. He'll never know. Wait till he sees the pics tomorrow. Oh, right, he won't. Best last night ever. She deserves this." I felt my chest tighten. My fiancé hadn't stumbled into temptation. She'd planned it, bragged about it, and wrapped it up in a bow of inside jokes. And her friends, the ones who were supposed to stand by her at the altar, were accomplices. That should have been the moment I broke. But instead, something colder set in. Not rage, not grief. Just this numb clarity that if I didn't handle this carefully, I'd be the one left looking like the problem. I set my phone down again, forcing myself to breathe, to think. One part of me whispered, maybe let it go. Maybe it's not worth detonating your whole life over one night. The other part, the louder, sharper part, said no. If she can do this the night before your wedding, what do you think the rest of your life will look like? That's when I realized I needed more than gut feelings. I needed undeniable proof. And I had no idea just how much worse the proof was about to get. Then I found something that confirmed my worst fears. The third file didn't come right away. There was a lull, maybe 20 minutes, where I just sat there in silence, staring at the phone on the coffee table like it was a live grenade. I thought maybe that was it. Maybe I'd already seen the worst. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that silence rarely means safety. When the buzz finally came, it jolted me out of my thoughts so hard I nearly spilled the untouched food that had gone cold beside me. Another video. This one longer. My thumb hesitated for a split second, but deep down, I already knew. Whatever was on that file would end everything. I pressed play. The camera opened on a chant. Dozens of voices pounding the same words into the air. Do it. Do it. Do it. The angle shifted, and there she was, my fiancée, standing in the middle of a circle, flushed, beaming like a rock star. Except this wasn't music. This was humiliation, and I was the only one who didn't get the joke. One of the guys from earlier stepped forward, shirt half open, grinning like he'd already won. She didn't resist. She welcomed it. She climbed on him like this was part of some twisted audition, and the room roared in approval. Hands clapped. Phones recorded. Her bridesmaids cheered the loudest. It wasn't just drinks. It wasn't just dancing. It wasn't even something I could file under drunk mistake. It was a deliberate show, fueled by the thrill of knowing nobody would stop her. The girl I thought I knew had disappeared, replaced by someone who craved the spotlight more than the vows waiting on the other side of midnight. I felt my body go cold. Not hot with anger. Cold, like the air had been sucked out of me. My vision tunneled, my pulse slowed, and I realized I was gripping the edge of the couch so hard my knuckles were white. The video ended with her raising a glass, shouting over the noise, "To freedom!" The crowd erupted, and then the screen went black. For a long time, I couldn't move. My phone sat there in my lap, the screen dimming until it went dark, but the images burned behind my eyelids anyway. Every rationalization I tried earlier, gone. Every excuse I'd rehearsed to make this somehow forgivable, destroyed. This wasn't suspicion anymore. It was confirmation. And the cruelest part? I could already picture tomorrow. I could see her walking down the aisle, face glowing with innocence, every guest believing the fairy tale. No one would know. No one except me. And if I said nothing, I'd be complicit in my own humiliation. I pressed the phone to my chest and closed my eyes. The nausea rose so hard I thought I might be sick right there on the living room floor. My fiancée, the woman I trusted above everyone else, had turned our marriage into a punchline before it even began. And that's when it hit me. If they were bold enough to record it, then somewhere, someone had the full truth. I just had to be willing to find it, and to use it. I wasn't ready for what I was about to discover. I thought the nightmare would end once the video stopped. That maybe the images would just loop in my head until I fell asleep from exhaustion. But reality doesn't work that cleanly. My phone buzzed again, not a new number this time, but a social media notification. I hadn't checked anything all night, too absorbed in the wreckage unfolding on my screen. Now, though, my blood went cold. The notification wasn't for me. It was for her. Someone had tagged her in a blurry photo with a caption, "Wildest bride-to-be I've ever seen." My stomach dropped. I clicked the tag, and suddenly I wasn't just looking at one person's guilty recording anymore. I was scrolling through dozens of posts, snippets of the party leaking into the digital world. Hashtags with her name, laughing emojis, captions about last night of freedom. Most were blurry, badly lit, but the intent was clear. This wasn't a private shame. It was public currency, traded for likes and clout. And there she was, right in the middle of it, frozen in poses I could never unsee. One shot had her hoisted up by two guys like she was the prize in some barbaric contest. Another had her blowing a kiss to the camera while holding a drink in each hand. And the comments, they made it worse. People cheering her on, strangers calling her party goals, others tagging friends to come laugh. I scrolled and scrolled, each post hammering another nail into the coffin of what I thought my life would be. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't even contained. It was a broadcast, and I was the last person to know. I slammed the phone down on the table, my hands trembling. A sick thought spiraled in my head. How many of my friends had seen this already? How many of her relatives would wake up tomorrow, check their feeds, and stumble across the bride-to-be behaving like a college freshman at a frat house? For the first time all night, the humiliation outweighed the heartbreak. This wasn't just betrayal, it was exposure. A private wound ripped wide open for an audience. I paced the room, every step echoing louder in the silence. Part of me wanted to drive to the venue, to scream in her face, to demand an explanation that could never be enough. But another part, the colder, more calculating voice, told me to stop, to think, to collect everything before I acted. And then, as if the universe wanted to twist the knife deeper, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a video, wasn't a photo. It was a message from the same unknown number that had sent the first clips. "If you want the full truth, meet me tomorrow morning." Before the ceremony, I stared at the words, my pulse thundering in my ears. Someone out there wasn't just leaking pieces, they had the whole picture. And for some reason, they wanted me to see it before anyone else. My mouth went dry. Tomorrow was supposed to be the day I said I do. But suddenly, it was shaping up to be the day I learned exactly how deep her betrayal ran. This went so much deeper than I thought. I didn't sleep that night, not even a little. I sat on the couch with the curtains drawn, the glow of my phone the only light in the room. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face in those videos, laughing, performing, thriving on the attention. And every time I opened them, the message from that unknown number stared back at me like a dare. If you want the full truth, meet me tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning. The same morning I was supposed to be buttoning my suit, straightening my tie, and preparing to promise forever. The contrast felt obscene. My mind ran in circles. Part of me wanted to believe she'd stumble home, half drunk, half remorseful, ready to spin it as a mistake. But deep down, I knew better. The look on her face in those clips wasn't regret. It was indulgence. She hadn't been swept away, she'd led the charge. Still, the weight of what came next pressed on me. If I exposed her, it wouldn't just end the wedding. It would detonate it. Her family, my family, all the guests, they'd see me not as a groom, but as the executioner. Some would call me cruel, dramatic, heartless for pulling the plug at the altar. I could hear their whispers already. Couldn't he have just canceled quietly? Did he really need to humiliate her? But then I'd hear her voice in the video again. This is my last night of freedom. And the sympathy drained out of me like water through a sieve. She hadn't thought about my humiliation. She hadn't cared about the promises we were supposed to make. Why should I care about cushioning her fall? I grabbed a notebook from the drawer and started writing. A list. Evidence I already had. Video number 1. The dancing, the laugh, the necktie. Video number 2. The whisper, the group chat screenshots. Video number 3. The chant, the kiss, the toast to freedom. Social media posts. Multiple, tagged, public. Then I underlined the final message. Meet me tomorrow. That was the wild card. Whoever sent those clips wasn't doing it out of kindness. Nobody sits on that kind of evidence without a reason. Were they trying to sabotage her? Protect me? Or just feed the drama? I didn't know, and honestly, I didn't care. What mattered was that they had something bigger, something that could burn away every doubt, every excuse, every maybe. The clock crept toward dawn. My head ached, my chest felt hollow, but beneath the exhaustion, a sharp focus settled in. I realized I had 2 choices. Option 1, bury it. Walk into the ceremony, smile for the photos, and pretend I hadn't seen any of it. Live the rest of my life as the man who knowingly married a liar. Option 2, gather everything. Confront her with proof she couldn't deny. And not in private, not in whispers behind closed doors, but in a way that everyone who thought I was overreacting would see for themselves. I set my pen down, my decision already made. I wouldn't be her silent accomplice. I spent sleepless nights planning. Finally, I knew what I had to do. The sun hadn't even cleared the horizon when I left my apartment. The world outside was unnervingly calm. Dew on the grass, joggers on their morning routes, the kind of day you'd expect before a wedding. My wedding. I drove in silence, my suit hanging in the back seat, though I knew damn well I wasn't going to wear it. The address in the message led me to a diner off the highway, the kind of place where truckers stop for black coffee and eggs. My stomach twisted as I walked inside, scanning the booths until I spotted her. Not my fiancée, thank God, but the cousin's friend, the one whose name I'd barely remembered when the first video came through. She looked nervous, tapping her nails against a mug. You came, she said as I slid into the booth. You sent them, I replied. No small talk, no pretense. She nodded, pushing an envelope across the table. My hands hesitated before touching it. Why? I asked. Her eyes flicked down, then back up. Because someone had to. You didn't deserve to walk into today blind. Inside the envelope was a flash drive. Heavy, as if guilt itself had weight. Everything's on there, she continued. The full night. Not just clips, start to finish. I made backups in case anyone tried to delete it. I swallowed hard. My fingers tightened around the envelope until the paper crumpled. And the others? They don't know you sent this. No, she whispered. They think it's all just between them. But you need to understand. If you use this, you'll blow up more than just her. Her friends, the family, the whole thing. It'll be public. I leaned back, staring at the sunlight pouring through the diner window. The world outside kept spinning, oblivious, while mine tilted on its axis. For a brief moment, I felt something almost like relief. This was it. The smoking gun. No more. Maybe I'm overreacting. No more rationalizations. With this drive, I had the truth locked down. I thanked her, paid for her coffee, and left without looking back. The envelope sat on the passenger seat as I drove, like a passenger whispering promises of justice. Back home, I plugged it in. Folders appeared on my screen, neatly labeled by time. I opened the first, then the next, then the next. Hours of footage. Not shaky, not amateur. Clear angles, different perspectives, like multiple people had pooled their recordings. I watched her laugh, dance, climb onto tables, whisper into strangers' ears. Every second screamed betrayal, but also something worse, calculation. She wasn't stumbling into mistakes, she was reveling in them. By the time I closed the laptop, I felt strangely calm. For the first time in 12 hours, I thought, I've got this under control. I had evidence. I had a plan. I knew exactly how I'd end things before the vows were ever spoken. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that the fallout wouldn't wait for me to make the first move. Because while I sat there convincing myself the nightmare was contained, the nightmare was already spreading. I thought it was over. I couldn't have been more wrong. I told myself I'd wait, that I'd hold my cards until the ceremony, until the exact moment when silence would wound me more than speaking. That was the plan. I'd walk in with evidence, decide whether to detonate or walk away, and finally feel in control of something that had spun so wildly out of it. But control is an illusion. It started with a phone call from my brother. He was supposed to be at the venue already, checking in on final details. Instead, his voice came tight, uneasy. Hey, are you seeing this? Seeing what? My stomach clenched. Group chat. Cousin Mark just dropped a link. It's going around. Don't know how many people have it, but he hesitated, then said it plain. It's her. From last night. For a moment, the room spun. My laptop was still open on the table, the flash drive inside like a loaded weapon, but now I realized I wasn't the only one armed. The footage wasn't mine alone anymore. I scrambled to open my phone, scrolling through notifications. And there it was, a private link, already shared in more than one chat. Faces I knew, people from both sides of the wedding, were commenting in real time. Some with shock, some with mockery, some with that awkward silence of people who don't know whether to laugh or hide. I felt the air leave my lungs. My plan to reveal everything carefully, to stand in control of the narrative, was gone. The narrative had escaped me. Texts poured in. From friends. From family. From people I hadn't spoken to in months, but who somehow thought they had the right to weigh in now. Hey man, is this real? Tell me this is fake. Please. If you need anything, I'm here. Seriously. And worst of all, silence from people who mattered most. No words, no explanations. Just unread receipts, like they were waiting to see how I'd respond before deciding which side to take. My phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a text. It was her. My fiancée. Or at least the woman who'd been my fiancée until 12 hours ago. I let it ring, then ring again. Each vibration rattled the desk until I finally picked up. Why aren't you answering me? Her voice cracked, panicked. It's not what it looks like. The words scraped across my nerves like sandpaper. Not what it looks like. A phrase so rehearsed it made me want to laugh, except laughter was the last thing left in me. People are talking, I said, my voice flat. Your family, my family. You turned our wedding into a public circus. She started crying, or pretending to. I couldn't tell anymore. Please, don't do this. Don't ruin everything. I closed my eyes. The irony was suffocating. She was begging me not to ruin everything, when she'd done exactly that. And for the first time since this began, I realized I wasn't just betrayed. I was being set up as the villain. If I walked away now, I'd be the man who abandoned his bride on the wedding day. If I stayed silent, I'd be the fool who married her anyway. Neither option felt survivable. What happened next made me question everything. The hours before the ceremony felt like living inside a vacuum. Every sound was muffled, every thought heavier than it should have been. I sat alone in my apartment, blinds still shut, the suit mocking me from where it hung. My phone buzzed nonstop. Family, friends, even numbers I didn't recognize, but I couldn't bring myself to answer anymore. What could I say? That I'd been blind? That I'd let myself believe her lies because it was easier than facing the truth? That while I was picturing vows and rings, she was out there drinking to freedom, like I was some prison she couldn't wait to escape. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal itself. It was the silence that followed. My brother had gone quiet after warning me. My parents hadn't called at all. Her family? Not a word. It felt like everyone was waiting backstage, holding their breath, wondering if I'd show up to deliver my lines or walk off stage altogether. And in that silence, a different fear crept in. What if I didn't act? What if I froze? And in doing nothing, I handed her the victory. She'd spin it, I knew she would. She'd cry at the altar, say she'd been pressured, say it was a misunderstanding. People would comfort her. I'd be the cold, unfeeling groom who couldn't forgive a silly mistake. I pictured that scene, her in white, eyes shimmering with tears, whispers in the pews blaming me for not being man enough to stand by her. The humiliation spread through me like fire under my skin. I grabbed the flash drive again, clutching it so tightly the edges dug into my palm. This was my weapon, my truth. But a part of me wondered, what if using it made me the villain anyway? What if exposing her in front of everyone branded me as cruel, petty, vindictive? My chest tightened, breath coming shallow. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, hands pressed into my face. For the first time since it all began, I felt tears sting my eyes. Not for her, for me, for the version of me that believed in her, in us, in the life we were supposed to be building. That version was dead, and mourning him hurt more than I expected. I stayed like that for what felt like hours, drowning in my own thoughts, until something shifted. A quiet clarity, buried under the chaos, pushed its way forward. It wasn't about her anymore. It wasn't about revenge, or even humiliation. It was about refusing to let a lie define the rest of my life. If she wanted a performance, fine. But it wouldn't be mine. I wiped my face, shoved the flash drive into my pocket, and stood up. My legs felt weak, but there was steel under the exhaustion now. I knew exactly where I was going and what I was going to do. This wouldn't end with me broken. I realized what I had to do to end this once and for all. The venue looked like something from a magazine spread. White chairs lined up in perfect rows, flowers arching over the altar, guests buzzing with polite excitement. From a distance, it could have been any wedding. From the inside, it felt like a stage waiting for an execution. I walked in with the flash drive burning a hole in my pocket. Conversations dipped as people noticed me. Some gave cautious smiles, others avoided my eyes entirely. The air was thick with expectation, whispers about whether I'd show up at all. And then I saw her. She stood near the front, veil pinned back, laughing nervously with her bridesmaids. For a second, I almost believed the illusion again, almost let myself fall for the soft, focused lens of the moment. But then she turned, caught sight of me, and the flicker of panic in her eyes confirmed everything. She knew I knew. The officiant cleared his throat, calling everyone to their seats. Music swelled, guests settled, and suddenly the ceremony was moving forward as if nothing had happened. I walked to my place, my heart pounding like war drums. She took her position across from me, clutching her bouquet with hands that shook just enough to notice. We went through the motions. Vows, rings, the rehearsed rhythm of promises neither of us believed anymore. I barely heard the words leaving her lips, something about love, loyalty, forever. Lies, each one hitting me like a slap. And then it was my turn. The officiant nodded at me, waiting for my vows. 100 eyes locked onto me. My throat tightened, but not from nerves. From clarity. I pulled the flash drive from my pocket and held it up. Gasps rippled through the crowd. My voice came out steady, colder than I expected. I was going to promise forever today, but forever means nothing when it starts with lies. Confusion washed over faces, hers most of all. She shook her head, whispering frantically, "Don't. Please, don't." I ignored her. I looked at the guests, our families, the friends who thought they knew our story. You deserve to know who you came here to celebrate. I handed the drive to the DJ, who hesitated only a moment before plugging it into the screen projector meant for the reception slideshow. The first video flickered to life. Her laugh, her hands on another man. The toast to freedom. Gasps. Murmurs. Someone's chair scraped against the floor. She lunged toward me, grabbing my arm. "Stop this. You're humiliating me." I yanked free, my voice rising over hers. "You humiliated yourself. I'm just making sure I'm not the only one who knows." The room fractured. Her mother covered her mouth in horror. My brother stared at me, wide-eyed but silent. The bridesmaids froze like statues, their complicity flashing in their eyes. And her? She crumbled. The defiance drained, replaced by crocodile tears that fooled no one anymore. The video ended in silence, so sharp it hurt. I let it hang there, every second a weight pressing down. Then I spoke one last time. "There will be no wedding today. Not with her. Not ever." I walked out before anyone could answer, the stunned quiet behind me louder than any applause. For the first time in 24 hours, I felt light. Not happy, not victorious, but free. Walking out of that venue felt like shedding a skin. Behind me were flowers, vows, and the illusion of a future that had already rotted. Ahead of me was silence, heavy and clean. The sun hit my face as I stepped outside, and for the first time in days, I took a full breath. The fallout was immediate. My phone lit up within minutes. Calls from relatives, friends, even numbers I didn't recognize. Half wanted to know if it was real. The other half didn't need to ask. They just wanted to say I'd done the right thing. I didn't answer any of them. Not that day. Later, I heard the ceremony collapsed within 15 minutes of me leaving. Guests whispered, some stormed out, others stayed behind like rubberneckers at a crash site. Her father reportedly tried to hush everyone, insisting there must be an explanation. But explanations don't erase video evidence. The truth was already out, and no amount of pleading could reel it back in. She tried, of course. The messages came fast and frantic. Apologies, excuses, even threats. First, she claimed she was drunk. Then she said it was just for laughs. When that didn't land, she turned cruel, accusing me of being vindictive, of destroying her in front of everyone. She didn't understand that I hadn't destroyed her. She had done that herself. I had only refused to be her silent partner in the lie. Her friends went quiet. The same bridesmaids who had cheered her on deleted their posts, locked their accounts, and acted like they hadn't been part of it. But silence is its own confession. Everyone knew. My family's reactions came slower, steadier. My mother hugged me that evening, tighter than she had since I was a kid. Better now than 20 years later, she said softly. My father just nodded once, a silent approval heavier than any speech. My brother told me the guests had split. Some admired me for walking out. Others thought it was cruel. I didn't care. Their opinions didn't weigh more than my own peace. The days after felt strange. I woke up without the wedding checklist screaming in my head. No tux, no photos, no rehearsed lines. Just silence. At first, it felt like failure, like I'd been robbed of something everyone else around me still had. But slowly, the silence began to feel different. Not empty. Freeing. I deleted her number. Blocked her everywhere. The flash drive went into a drawer, not because I wanted to hold on to it, but because part of me knew. Evidence matters. People have short memories. Receipts don't. Weeks later, word spread she'd moved out of town. Rumor was, some of her own family had turned on her after the humiliation. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. I stopped keeping track. She was no longer my responsibility. What stayed with me wasn't her betrayal. It was the lesson. Love without trust is a costume. It looks real until the seams split. And when they do, it's not love that falls apart. It's you. Unless you choose not to play along. I chose myself. And if anyone asks me today why I walked away at the altar, I tell them the truth. Because sometimes the bravest vow you can make is the one you keep to yourself. That you will never, ever settle for being someone's punchline. Looking back, it's almost surreal. One night, one video, and the illusion of an entire future unraveled. And while it felt like my world was collapsing, in reality, something else was happening. I was being handed the truth before I locked myself into a lifetime of lies. Painful as it was, that moment probably saved me. If you've ever ignored red flags because you wanted so badly to believe in someone, you know how heavy that silence feels. But sometimes silence is the loudest choice you can make. Walking away doesn't mean weakness. It means reclaiming the part of yourself you almost gave away for good. I don't share this for pity. I share it because stories like this remind us. Loyalty isn't a performance, and trust isn't optional. And if you've been through something similar, you're not alone. So tell me, what would you have done in my place? Would you have exposed it, or walked quietly away? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if stories like this resonate, stick around. There are plenty more worth telling.